Hi, I'm Mina, and this is what I have been working on for the past couple months for my directed studies for my computer science degree, which is some very fun stuff with certain kinds of outline rendering. So I'm working with a particular technique called suggestive contours, which it's a technique that was kind of developed in the early 2000s, but not really used as much. But the thing about this is, and that other techniques are generally been preferred. So that the technique that's most often used is lines based on normal, the threshold of the normals. So this, like this kind of thing, this is generally the most commonly used version of this kind of stuff. But it has some problems with getting it to work exactly right. So like, you miss out on some things, but then when you get to the point of actually having as much as you want, maybe it ends up being too noisy in certain places. So what I ended up and it kind of depends on exactly what sort of models you have, what I ended up determining was, hey, wait, if you combine this with these suggestive contours, the suggestive contours have, and one of the benefits of them is they also zoom way better. So they have some really good properties, but they mess up on certain things. So them being combined together is kind of ideal. And I think the best example of this is looking at just a plain old cube, because if I'm just using suggestive contours, some of the corners disappear. It doesn't always catch them, which is not great because of the way it works has stuff to do with like curvature stuff that's kind of doesn't quite work right. Like it's much better for smooth curves rather than sharp corners, whereas the stuff based on changes in normals, way better for sharp corners. And then, of course, why is it not letting me click this button? Great. Why am I not clicking this button? Why is it not letting me click this button? Just a second. This is being weird. Something is being weird here. Just a second. It's not letting me click the button. Oh, I've realized why it was letting me click button. I was just not paying attention to which click I was doing. I was right clicking instead of left clicking. Great.
That's how I'm saying.
Happens to the best of us. Yeah, you can also. I've also got the outline for the depth, so that gives a nice like external outline. And I've got a couple of different meshes I was working with for like judging how this works, and you can see different kind of variations on it. So like, if I'm just looking at the suggestive contours, there's a lot of different variation you can have. You can adjust the line thickness properties.
Can you zoom in a little bit so it's easier to see from the back?
Sorry, what?
It's a bit hard to see from the back. Can you like zoom in a bit?
Oh yeah, sure. I can zoom in more. Let's see if I can get a better rotation of this. I'll just use this right now. That's annoying to do with trackpad. Is that a bit better for folks from the back? Sounds good. So yeah, this one. Yeah, so you can see like I can adjust the radius of it, which like that adjusts the radius in which it is computing it, but also kind of usually like increases the thickness, but also like has some other properties. And then I can adjust different thresholds on this. So yeah, if you get it, this threshold is about how much of the area around this is like angled away more. Yeah, I have a whole in-depth explanation of this that I think some of the details of which I'm not necessarily going to get to in this presentation. I just realized I didn't press on this timer. That's right. I'll just keep an eye on my watch. Sorry. But yeah, you can vary this. So that kind of varies some stuff like that. And then you can vary this threshold, which as it gets higher, there's less of it. As it gets lower, more of the possible lines end up showing up. And then, of course, go to get like very low, you get a lot of them, but it's and a substantial portion of like my report on this that I was working on was on determining, hey, what is actually the good settings to use, what settings actually work well and what don't. And yeah, if anybody wants to see that, I can show that at some point, but this is kind of just a general impression of like visually what it's like. It performs pretty well generally. which is nice. And I think the combined thing is pretty good. I don't know how much, I frankly don't know how much I necessarily have to talk about it other than just, here's what it looks like. Here's a different model. Here's with a model of a shell, like a seashell. You can see different kinds of details popping out there. Got a model of a column. This one has some nice like relief on it that really is highlighted really well by this stuff.
Can you zoom in on that one? It
Yeah,
looks
sure.
really cool.
It's this is yeah. I found an excellent website which has a bunch of freely available photo scans that I should probably share with with people here of like various statues and stuff. It's lovely to use and lovely for like testing different kinds of things. You can see the kind of the detail on these like relief carvings really gets shown rather well with this. You can get a lot of the detail and it shows up really nicely. Yeah, I guess that's the main gist of it all. If probably at this point, I don't really have too much more specifically to say about this unless people have questions. Sure.
Oh, me?
Oh yeah, you.
Oh,
Sorry.
Seeing that you're doing this, you're talking about like curvature and all those different types
Yeah.
of things. I'm just looking at this here. If this is something that truly interests you here, have you ever tried out Substance Painter?
I'm familiar with Substance Painter. I have not messed around with it, but I'm familiar. It's more for like a lot of building different materials and texture stuff. I've not messed around with it too much.
There's something in there called generators, and what it does is that you can bake that type of curvature that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And you can adjust things there, and it leaves less interpretation for the engine to do.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because I looked at stuff like that for this, and I didn't really actually end up looking into it too much. One of the things about this one is that though it is based on curvature, it is the actual that is one of the definitions of it. It's actually doing the computation differently. It's actually kind of based on some stuff involving the dot product of the normal with the v direction, but that ends up being mathematically equivalent to the stuff from the curvature, and a lot easier to compute. But the reason why I was talking with the curvature stuff is because that's the more intuitive, like kind of mathematical definition of it. It's a weird technique. And I will definitely, the papers on it are really good, and I'm not super good at explaining all the details of how it works, but I guess the best explanation is probably that if you have your outline contours, suggestive contours are about things that are contours in nearby views, so that will become an outline contour when you rotate the view a certain amount. But yeah, that's kind of the more technical definition of that. Yeah.
I'm curious if you've played around now that you've got this in this really awesome state with textures, and which textures are starting to like make the most use of this effect.
That is something I would really like to do. Actually, I've been figuring out, because this is for my directed studies, but just kind of trying out different things leading into doing my actual honors thesis. And one